Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Yolanda, and in today's video I'm going to be giving to you guys a story time about this guy at church was harassing me. And basically, y'all, like, let me tell you, like, this is a story that you are going to want to watch, okay? Like, there's some stories that has happened in college that, you know, I might take to the grave, or some other stories that I'm gonna wait till I graduate. But honestly, like, I've been on Storytime YouTube, and I was like, you know what, might as well, because I just don't see myself ever really returning back to that church specifically unless that guy is removed, because it's just to that extent that I'm just like, no. Y'all, when you hear this full story, you'll be like, you're not exaggerating. So if you guys are interested in watching this, please be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe down below. Please be sure to turn on post notifications to be notified when I post. If I were to, let's get on in this video. Okay, so I want to make a disclaimer before I do this, and basically, like, this is like a no hate, no shame type video. At the end of the day, what happened, and I'm pretty much over it. But like, I feel like, just even from my own recollection, just to look back at this video, like, oh my goodness, like, when I tell you, like, the whole situation was unreal. This is no hater shade to the pastor or anything. At the end of the day, like, you know, like, I really loved him, like, he's really the best, but that guy just gotta go. And unfortunately, you know, he wasn't removed from there, so I just decided I was gonna step away from that, at least like ministry on campus. But basically, yeah, so let's get into it. So once again, like, I transferred schools, and now I'm at my new school, and one of the first things that I definitely prioritized was to go find a college church ministry, y'all. Like, that is something that, like, I had at my old school, but at the same time, that was just something that, like, I really wanted to find and do things differently. And so literally, like, I remember that first week I was there, I was looking for everything. And for those that follow my Instagram or Snapchat or just YouTube in general, y'all can see how active I've been at church. Like, that's something that, like, genuinely, like, I prioritized and started prioritizing now and all. And so basically, yeah, so I went to one of the college ministries, which was called, you know, BCM, which stands for Baptist College Ministries, something along the lines of that. And when I got there the first day, I was just kind of like, I was kind of nervous a little bit. I liked the one that they had at my old school, so I was like, maybe they'll be cool when I get to the one here. And so basically, yeah, I meet a few people, and it was cool. Like, the girls were cool. I never really talked to the guys, really. My main focus, especially going to this new school, was really just making, like, girl friendships, because, you know, I realized that, like, some of the friendships that I had at my old school, especially when it came to, like, girl friendships, it just was, there was a whole spectrum. Not to, and once again, not to say that I'm like this perfect person, but just personally, like, there was just some things that went on, I'd say, for like a good bit of people, and I just realized it just wasn't for me. Some of the people that I met, like, once again, like, we could have good times and all, but like, I guess in a sense, with at least the girls, lacked like solid friendships in that sense. But it was also just some of the people that I involved myself around with might have not been the best influences for each other, so maybe that could be partly to it as well. But yeah, that was messy in itself, so that's why I knew, like, what I wanted, especially going into the new school. And so I made sure to surround myself around people that, you know, likewise, and like things that we want in life, you know, like, also Christian. Not to say like they have to be Christian, but like, that was just like at least like similar morals and values, and like things aligning in that sense, like, was important to me, and people that would actually reciprocate the energy back into the friendship. Anyways, though, so going on to the story, so yeah, like, of course, like, so yeah, I was going through like a recent breakup during that time, which that was hard on me, and so that was another reason why that contributed for me to want to, like, really, like, you know, find a community, make friends before even entertaining any guy on campus. And so basically, yeah, you know, like, here and there people would like follow me on Instagram, and I remember this one guy in particular followed me on Instagram, and we're gonna give him code name army guy. That would be his code name because he is in the, I don't even know what it's called, but just army guy, right? And so basically, yeah, so what happened from with that though, I saw his page and I was like, oh, you know, not particularly my type, and it's okay for people to not be each other's type, but I didn't think anything too much about it. And y'all, I'm gonna be reading receipts because, like, to tell this story, like, that's the only way that I'm gonna be able to keep on track with this pretty much. So I get a message from this guy, and I had only from that point been to, I would say, 1 or 2 activities. So around this time also, I had decided to go to the BCM's like camp thing that they had. And so basically it was just like a weekend night day camp, and so during this time I wasn't able to go on like the track trip because since I was still transferring and moving all my stuff around, and then like also like needing to have qualifying times, I wasn't able to go to this one race. So I was able to stay back, you know, on campus. So I decided, why not go to the church camp and like get close with the people, and like, because like they were cool and all, but like I feel like camp can really, like, you know, bring people together. And so, and that's what it was. Like, it was a really great camp experience for sure, like, no doubtly. Anyways, yeah, so going back to the messages, I had to pull them out, but this is January 29th, and he's like, hey, how are you? So I respond, hi, good, exclamation mark. And then he was like, that's good, so how are you liking the BCM so far? And then I was like, everyone is pretty cool. And that's all I said. And then he was like, okay, that's good. And then he was like, well, I was just wondering if you wanted to hang out sometime and get to know each other. So I don't respond until maybe like an hour later. And I'm like, I'm really busy with track right now. I'm currently in season. So then he was like, oh, okay, I understand. And then later that night, he's like, are you free any day? And I feel like, you know, I feel like if the girl doesn't like respond with like a follow-up, that's kind of like, you know, some social cues that like, hey, you know, the girl's uninterested, like, okay, let me stop there. No, that is not what happened. So then the next day I respond to his message and I'm like, not gonna lie, I just got out of a relationship and I'm not really looking for anything. He's like, oh, okay, understand. So after the fact though, you know, time goes on, and like here and there, like at the college like worship nights, so like he would like kind of try to talk to me or come up to me, and I would kind of like dismiss him, or like even like just like, you know, like when you just try to like, you pretend like you don't hear somebody, because like by this point like it just seemed like, you know, things are kind of like being pushy a little bit. Now it wasn't too much as where things eventually led to, but it was definitely to a point where I was just like, okay, clearly like he still has some feelings for me. And especially there is this one paragraph. Now I have him blocked, but if I was to look back on my Instagram, he commented on one of my stories, and it was one where I was talking about like my whole family personal life situation, and basically like he wrote like this little paragraph. I didn't read through the full thing because honestly I was just kind of like it's okay for people to have sympathy for me about the situation, but like just knowing like just how pushy he was about like just his feelings for me, it just came across a different way in my mind, at the least. And so after that, he sends a message February 3rd, and it's like, hey, how can I be praying for you? And I don't know, like I feel like it's okay for people to say that and stuff like that, but once again, like knowing like already, like, you know, it just seemed like different intentions, or maybe I'm overthinking this part, but I pretty much in the nicest way like kind of just like declined that prayer request, like, you know. And so I was just like, the next day I responded and I was like, hey, thanks, I appreciate it, things are getting better now, I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page, that we're just friends. I'm just interested in someone else at the moment. I wasn't really interested in anybody else in the moment, but like just so that he can like, you know, think that like, hey, like I'm not like looking your way, like, you know, I'm gonna really like let go of her. And so he responds, yeah, I got it, not gonna lie, I thought it was because you just got out of a relationship though, but good to know. So then I was just like, it just seems like things were different, but I just wanted to clarify. And then he said no, you said he didn't want a relationship, so I respected that. I don't force things, I just move on with my life. Yeah, I was interested in you, but like someone, so I'll just move on. Oh, but you like someone, so I'll just move on. He continues to message me the next day, well actually 4 days after the fact, so February 8th is like, I'm not gonna lie and say this whole thing didn't sting a little, cause it did, but I would like to at least build a friendship with anything, because you do seem like a great person, so if you want to, we can do that. So I didn't respond until the next day, because I'm not gonna respond within the first day, because that, I just feel like to him it would have seemed like, oh, she's interested. So I just responded the next day and I was like, yes, we can. And then he was like, okay, bet, with like 3 T's at the end. So then the next day he was like, oh, you go to this church too, for like, it's like a college night, so just like during the week. And then I was like, yes. And then I asked, someone said they're not having tonight, is that true? And then he was like, yeah, they do that a lot. It's usually once they end a series, they would take a week break or something like that. So I didn't respond until an hour later, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then he asked me about this other church, if I like that other church, and I didn't respond until the next day. Mind you, the next day I responded like literally like, I'd say like basically like 12 hours after the fact of the others. Well, 24 hours. 36 hours after the fact. And then I was like, it was really, really nice. And then he was like, me when my text back game is trash. And then I was like, bruh, I have so many messages to get to, it's overwhelming. And then he was like, dang, I guess you're popular then. And then I'm like, I'm just a very busy person. And like, that's in general, like if I don't respond to people, like sometimes it's intentionally, like when it's like something like this, but in general, like I am flooded with messages. And that's not to make myself sound like this or that. No, like in general, like I'm flooded, and like it takes me a little bit, but I do get back to people, you know. I do at least within like 48 hours is what I'm trying. The goal is 24, but that's kind of failed already. But yeah, so then he was like, fair. And then tell me why 2 days after the fact, he texts me, did you eat today? And then I was like, I guess, yeah, question mark, why so? And then he was like, just making sure you ate. And then I was like, why? And then he was like, because I'm a good friend and I make sure my friends eat some real food. So mind you, within the stretch of time, and remember, this is on this day, like my friend had came into town because she goes to my old school, and so basically we were planning on hanging out. So what a crazy coincidence, this whole story. But basically, like, we go to the rec center and we go play pool together. Well, no, actually I think it's like ping pong. Yeah, ping pong. And so basically we're playing, and then tell me why this random man comes in and is like, oh, you're on the track cross country team, like, isn't like Yolanda or whatever? And I was like, huh? Because I'm like, I've never seen this guy before. Mind you, I have just been at the school just for a month, okay? And so tell me why. I'm like, how do you know me and that I'm on like the track team? And then he's just like, oh yeah, because my friend army guy really likes you. And I'm like, oh, so you're telling people now. That's what's going on in my mind. And I'm just like in my head thinking, like, what is this? Like, you know, like a crush, I literally saw this the other day, a crush is just a lack of information. Why? Like, okay, it's okay if you like me or whatever, but like the fact that like I already like rejected him. Okay, we're gonna get to this next part because it's gonna make sense why I'm saying these other things. But yeah, so we start going, and then he's just like, oh, like, you know, like, why don't you like him, X, Y, and Z, like, you know, like, he's a really nice guy and all this stuff. And he starts spilling some things about his friends, and I'm like, if my friend was saying that about me and I liked a person, like, I would not like that. But he's basically just like, oh yeah, like how he's been really trying to get into a relationship, and like how he's not had a lot of luck lately. So why is that my problem with it, you know? And it just kind of like just rubbed me the wrong way the whole conversation, because he's just like, oh, like, trying to like push on the idea like, oh, you should just go for him, like, oh, you should just like try out or whatever. And I'm just like, no. And then I literally like tell him everything that's going on so far, and I show him all the messages up till literally today, and I'm just like, look at this, literally asking me after I made sure I at first had made it clear that I don't want anything like romantically to do with him, and then him pushing on this idea of wanting to be friends, and then on top of that asking me like personal questions. Like, what if I had an eating disorder? What if I literally had something like that and you're asking me, did I eat today? What if that was a sensitive subject? And literally the guy was like, yeah, he said, like in the message he was saying, yeah, he asked his friends that. And it was so funny because the guy was like, he's never asked me that before. And literally I was like in my head thinking like, my point, you know. And so then he started asking me like, oh yeah, like, why don't you like him? And then I'm just like, well, first of all, like, just like, you know, just like not my type in general. And I don't necessarily go for people that are like in the, what do you call it? Like, I don't know what the general term is, but he was like, once again, an army guy. And I just personally, I just can't do the whole like deployment thing. And just like, I don't know, like I've heard just way too many stories. Maybe I just haven't found the right person in there, but I just heard way too many stories, way too many things about cheating, about just, and already like the kind of character that he had, that he was already pushing this idea onto me. I was just like, no, like already, like that was already like making him unattractive to me, doing all of that. And so just, I mean, that's pretty much like what I told him. And I was like, you know, I did whatever I could to like make it clear to him that I wasn't interested. And so, you know, I told him from, you know, you need to be from man to man and tell him that, hey, he needs to step back and that he's doing the most. And he was like, okay, you know, yada yada. And he agreed with me, you know. And you know what, we ended up playing ping pong together, me, him, and my friend. And you know, he was a really cool person, you know, like, and no hater shit of course to him at all, of course, because he was really sweet during the whole process though too. But basically, yeah, so that goes on. So later that night I was gonna take my friend to the church activity, but I ended up not, because she ended up leaving with her boyfriend. So I just go there and I meet up with the other like church girls. But on my walk there, I end up responding back to the guy, and I'm just like, and then he was like, why do you think I was asking? Mind you, this is still about the eating conversation. And I was like, so basically from this point I'm just like, maybe we shouldn't be friends. It just seems like you keep on trying to make advances towards me, and I just don't like you in that way. I've been really trying to be nice about it, but it seems like you are just unable to accept that I'm uninterested. The whole thing is just really making me uncomfortable, because I know you want to be more than just friends. And then his response is, bruh, that's not the case at all. Just for your information, I've asked multiple of my friends that, and they don't take it any other way than me simply asking a question. So I don't appreciate you making assumptions. I have already accepted that you don't. If I'm being honest, I really don't care that much. Okay then, so why are you sending me all this then? And then I know I'm a great guy and all that, and someone else will just get to experience that. Once again, like, why do you feel the need to have to prove yourself to me when I already like rejected you? And then he was like, but I was not trying to make any advances on whatever on you, but cool if you don't want to be friends, cool, we don't have to be. Like, this didn't brush me the right way at all. So then I start getting livid, y'all. Like, I've been working on my anger. I don't have anger issues, but I've been working on my patience, y'all. But Lord, this tested me. So I sent him 3 recordings, and these are kind of long, so I'll just give you a general idea. But basically I was just saying like how it's hypocritical, because basically we just are going back and forth between each other, because I'm just like, you know, the fact that like you just can't handle rejection. At the end of the day, it's okay, like, move on. And my thing is if I get rejected from somebody, like, I feel like it's embarrassing to keep on like going out of your way to like try to like I would be embarrassed. Like, what happened to being ashamed? What happened to literally being embarrassed of people, like, of like situations and stuff like this? Like, if I was rejected by a guy, I would not be trying to persistently keep on going for him like that. I feel like that's just embarrassing, but I guess it just wasn't registering that same way. But also in general, I just feel like it's social cues that just weren't being picked up at the time. or just in general at all. And so basically, yeah, and I'm just like, and then he starts getting upset about the fact that like I was saying like how I was talking to my friends about it, and he was like, you know, like, why are you talking to all these people about it? And I'm like, first of all, like, it's a few friends, and clearly when I've literally rejected you and multiple times in messages I've been like, hey, like, you know, like I don't want to be with you romantically, I'm fine with being friends, you crossed that boundary, now I don't want to be friends, so like why are you pressed about me not wanting to be friends anymore with you? And I'm like, clearly I've done everything that I could think of to like set the like thing straight, that like, hey, that like I just don't want anything to do with you pretty much. And he's just not getting the message, so of course I'm gonna get other people involved. And so basically I just say it's hypocritical, because clearly he's not the only one that he's talked about me to, and he talked to his friend about me, because if he didn't talk to his friend about me, then his friend would have never came up to me and recognized me and said all this stuff about him. So like, it's just like, boy, you know. So anyways though, so after my voice messages, so kind of going over the things that I was telling you about, but I'm just going to read over the messages still. But he's like, so I know probably we won't care, but the fact that you got so many people involved when this had nothing to do with, it's crazy. It's kind of crazy. Like, I haven't told nobody about, because I felt like it's no need, and plus that's not how I handle stuff. I just go to the person I have the issue and talk to, and if they still don't get that, then that's when I get others involved. But that's crazy that you got all those people involved. And then my response is, so I'm not allowed to ask my friends about things going on in my life? And then I said, I feel like you're taking this way out of proportion. And then he was like, second, again, as I said before, I was simply asking a question. There was no ill intentions behind, or other than the fact that I was literally asking a question. Like, I literally asked one of my female friends the same things. She simply answered the question, didn't think anything of it, so it was never like that. So then I was like, I did go to you about it and you didn't take the hint, so yes, I did get advice from my friends. And then I was like, that's really random to ask, especially for someone you really don't know. This is still about the topic about did I eat today. So then he was like, third, you asked all my friends stuff like I hardly ever talk about, except for the one time I did actually want to pursue you, so I don't know where all that's coming from. By this point, I'm about to make it to the church, and so I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna call this man up, because I'm just sick and tired of texting, and it's just like, you're just not getting the hint here. So basically, y'all, everything that I said in the voice recording, I reiterated, and I low-key went off on him, and I was just like, look here, like, I'm not gonna do this, I don't want anything to do with you, pretty much. And he finally got the hint, as so as I thought. But we're gonna get to that part, y'all. We are gonna get to that part. So basically, his response of 1 hour later is pretty much, hey, so I do apologize for everything. I see how I may have come off too strong. I never had any ill intentions or any intentions other than a friendship after you said you did not like me the first time. I see how it could have been perceived that way. I hope you still continue coming to the church during the week and on the weekends, because both of those communities have a lot to offer. Have a great day. And I also I won't be asking any of those type of questions or personal questions anymore. And so basically, he then messages me the next day, because I don't respond to his other message, and he's like, I really do hope we can move past this. Is at 2:14 a.m. he messages me, and he's like, I really do hope we can move past this, though we don't have to be best friends or friends at all. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. Then now the 15th is unfortunately the day that I got the news from my best friend's parents that she had passed away, and it was really hard on me during this time, and I ended up going home later that day because it was just a lot to bear. and I was just extremely sad, you know, like any response. And honestly, like, it was just really hard on top of that, because it was like, that was like my first like real loss. Like, I've lost like relatives before, but like that was like different, because it was like, it was somebody that like I was close with. Like, she knew a lot about me, I knew a lot about her, and we had actually met on a cruise together literally like a year ago. And so it was just so crazy, because it was really crazy. But the day of Valentine's Day, I had literally texted her, and then an hour later is when she had passed away. And so it just didn't sit right with me, because one of the last conversations that we had was about seeing each other again, and now not really having the opportunity to when she was alive. That just really like hurt a lot. And so I was grieving through a lot. And so basically, like, I just put a message on my story, just basically just really sad, you know, and just like hoping that it wouldn't be true. And then he responds, sorry, once again, like, he gets back in the story and is like, sorry for your loss. And then I was like, I appreciate it, and I put a white heart. And then he was like, of course. And so by this point I eventually meet up with the college pastor. So the whole message thingy was on February 15th, but I meet up with the pastor February 17th. So that's like a few days later. And pretty much, you know, so he meets up with everybody new that joins that like college ministry. And so we had planned on for the Monday, and so we were talking about life. I give him my whole backstory and everything like that, and he's super sweet, and I really like him to this day though. Like, he's a really great college pastor. I do think how the situation was handled was kind of like but other than that though, like, he's a really great guy. Like, I'm not gonna like take away from that fact though. Like, he's really, you know, he's giving me a lot of counsel, and just genuinely like a good person overall. But basically, when we get to the end of the like conversation, we're about to leave, because I think I have like study hall to go to or something, and basically he brings up the situation, and I'm like, oh. And in my head, I'm thinking on top of that, like, okay, so on top of the guy already calling me hypocritical, you went to the college pastor about it. But mind you this, the only reason why he went to the college pastor about it is because he was bothered by the fact that I said that he makes me uncomfortable. And so, which honestly, like, I think that it's good that he went to him about it, so that like, at least, you know, it's like, I don't know. But yeah, so basically what we establish is just that, like, you know, like, we don't have to have anything deep. It could be like surface level, but he told the guy to back off. And pretty much from that point, like, the college pastor made me aware that, like, you know, like, there's just been some issues like in the past, yada yada yada, and like how the guy, like, you know, has been, like, once again, like, it's like no secret, like, it's general information that like this guy, you know, has been trying to get into a relationship for a while, and like, but like how it's unfair to me for him to be pushing on this idea, yada yada yada. So he told him that he talked to him, and that he's not gonna bother me, that we could be friends, be cordial, whatever I'd want it to be, but like, you know, if there's anything that was to ever happen, to let him know. So basically, you know, I go off from that conversation feeling confident about things. Y'all, I wish that is where the story ends. I literally wish that is where it ends, but nope, that is not. So that day is Monday, right? Tuesday is the college, like, Christian, like, night, right? And basically, like, we have like our, like, you know, worship goes on, and he's in the worship thingy. And I remember, like, I forgot like what the topic that the pastor talks about, but like basically I know in the midst of it he talks about brotherly and sisterly love, yada yada yada. So later that night, I don't know what prompted that idea, but just from that point on, like, I know myself good enough to the point where it's just like, if I know somebody's like gonna be bothering me and make me feel away. Like, I know what triggers me, right? Of course, and that's good to know yourself in that way so that you can like prevent certain situations from happening. So I knew how he made me feel, right? And mind you, remember the brotherly and sisterly love part, okay? So mind you, later that night I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna block him because I see no point or purpose. I already told him I don't want anything to do with him anymore, and that's that, and I just want to move on. And plus, because by that point I was kind of like, you know, like I just wanted to move on, you know, of the whole situation. So I was like, you know what, might as well block him. So the next morning I go to practice, and I was at practice. I didn't see the message, luckily, until when I got out the shower, when I was checking all of my stuff. And when I tell you, like, I called the pastor while I was literally getting dressed, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna be here in 5 minutes, but I'm gonna read you the whole message. But basically army guy is just saying, I just saw that you blocked me, and I would like to say that's really messed up considering I did nothing to you. I don't even know the reason you blocked me or anything. You just did that, and that's messed up. I thought the issue between us was solved. I already apologized and everything. We literally just talked about showing our brothers and sisters a love. Mind you, the lesson literally from the day before. Literally the day before at church that was given by the college pastor. And then he was like, so how was blocking someone showing them love? If anything, you could have said, hey, this is bothering me, and we could have talked. When I tell you, oh my goodness, I had the college pastor on speed dial, and literally, like, I went up there and I was like, hey, are you there at the church? He was like, yes. I was like, is the army guy there at the church? He's like, yes. And I was like, okay, I'm going there. I'm gonna meet you there in 5 minutes. I kid you not, I was probably there in like 3-4 minutes. Luckily, it was a close distance though to the school, which was nice about that campus. But basically, I go over there, and we sit in there, and I'm just like, look at this message. And then the pastor's like, that is unacceptable. And basically, so it's me, army guy, the pastor, and then the college intern. And I'm sitting there across from this guy, and I'm just like, and the pastor lets me speak first, and I was like, I just think it's unacceptable, the fact that this has like literally prolonged for so long. And just the fact that like I don't know, just like, you just couldn't handle rejection. That's what I pretty much said. And I was like, you know, like the fact that like, even for like, I give you the chance to be friends, and like repeatedly you keep on crossing boundaries and making things weird, and it's like, I don't want anything to do with you at all. And so then basically his rebuttal is just like, I don't get like how I'm like, you know, like crossing your boundaries. And then by that point I just don't say anything back, because I'm just like, you know, I'm just like over it, and yada yada yada. And I was just waiting to see what the pastor was saying. So then basically, like, the pastor, he was just like, you know, like, so basically we just established that like he wasn't gonna make any contact with me whatsoever. He's not gonna talk to me, he's not gonna send me any messages, and that if he does, then he's gonna be removed from the place, right? And so from my understanding to this point, like, he was harassing other girls as well, and it wasn't just like black girls, it was like just anybody else, you know. And wasn't just this semester, but it was also the last semester though too. Mind you, he's only a freshman, right? And I'm only a freshman though too. And so basically, you know, we kind of just like, we see like the army guy, so he's getting upset, and it's to the point where like he's like on the verge of crying. And in my head I'm thinking, like, why are you upset? Like, you're the one who literally you're the one that literally caused this whole entire thing. And I'm not like one to like spill people's personal business, so I'm not gonna say like what was going on, but it's just like, still at the same time, like, you know, like, I've had a hard life. I literally like escaped a cult and literally survived such like a toxic, like, abusive household, right? Not to compare our problems, but like, I understand going through things in life, but that does not mean that I'm gonna project my issues and my anger on other people. And just because something happened this morning does not mean that you need to, like, you know, take it out on me. And also, like, I just think that like like, what is that supposed to make me feel like? Why would I want to be friends with somebody who's gonna take out their anger at me like that, in that way, and try to belittle me and try to question my character? Because that was the thing that he would do repeatedly, is to try to like be like, oh, you know, like, I thought you were a nice girl. Like, literally in the message, that's what he said. And it's just like, because I rejected you, you think I'm a terrible person, pretty much. And yeah, and so then, like, you know, like, that whole thing just, like, you know, messes with me. And then pretty much, you know, like, I go to the other room and talk to the college intern while he ends up talking to the pastor. And I feel like there's a detail that I'm missing in the conversation, but yeah, just like something personal happened to him, but it's just like, that's still not how you treat people. So anyways, though, yes, basically I'm talking to her, and apparently this issue was something that like this is the worst of the extent of the issue. Like, I am the worst case that has happened so far with him, but something similar happened last semester. So in my head, I'm thinking to myself, like, why hasn't this man been booted out in the first place? Like, that's just one thing that's kind of hard, I feel like. And once again, like, no, like, hater shit. Like, once again, like, I love the college pastor, but I think that's a huge thing though too. It's hard to understand, at least maybe, like, being a different gender, but like how uncomfortable a person can make you. But when it's like multiple like girls saying the claim, then it's just like, I feel like something should be done, even with just one claim, or even to the extent of my situation too. So I definitely left that conversation feeling kind of like still kind of annoyed. But basically the guy, army guy, he was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna come here anymore, like, I'm gonna like leave and find somewhere else. And so I didn't know this until the next day when I went to go talk to the pastor again, because I was just trying to figure out, like, why did it have to go this far? Like, why, like, was he so adamant about being in a relationship, and then when that didn't work out, wanting to be friends? And okay, this is the part that I forgot. Like, he would have not known that I blocked him if he didn't search for me. That's the first problem. Like, this man, he still clearly had feelings and wanted me to be in his life. So it was like, you actively seeking out, like, that's your, like, just what are we not understanding here, pretty much. And so yeah, like, so I go asking the college pastor, and I'm just like, hey, you know, like, so just like, why this or that? And then I had blocked him on GroupMe, but I didn't see the messages from that day prior. But turns out, like, apparently, like, he had made this scene in the group chat, and he was like, oh yeah, like, he's basically just like making a scene like, oh, like, y'all, like, you know, pray for me, I'm going through a hard time. And like, that's good to, you know, like, confide in community like that. But what he did next was kind of like over the top, because then he just like left the group chat, and then it was just like, but then turns out he popped up there the next day at the church and then rejoined the group chat, and it was just like, it was just kind of attention seeking. And I just feel like, okay, yes, you're going through your problems and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's just like, I hope that, like, you know, like, the hard time that you're talking about isn't about the situation between me and you, because, you know, that's like what you caused to happen. But yeah, so pretty much, y'all, I had not realized how much I've been talking. My car just got full, but I just got more storage. So anyway, so yeah, so, you know, just leaving off the story, you know, like, eventually, like, he just like came back. Literally, it wasn't even a full day that he was gone, and I kept on seeing him, and the way that he was, like, it was just kind of like, you know, like, it's just like every time I would speak or talk, like, he would just be like intently like staring at me. And like, whenever like I would talk to any other guy, and that was just weird. But that was just like, it's whatever, like, I know we're gonna have to like cohabit here in the same space. But it got to a point where like he would try to like still indirectly get into my conversations, and it wasn't just like a few times, it was like literally like multiple times. Like, this man would like jump into my conversations, and I would be like, you know, and like it would just continue to make me feel uncomfortable. And I feel like you shouldn't have to feel like that in a space. Like, I could be having something unrelated, literally talking to somebody else, and it's just like him jumping into my conversations and like speaking to me like indirectly but still directly. It's just like, didn't the pastor tell you to literally like stop? Like, and I feel like that's just like, once again, with boundaries, just like not understanding it. And also like social cues, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be like doing X, Y, and Z because this is gonna make so and so feel uncomfortable. But it wasn't like really taken that well. So basically, you know, I sent a message to the college pastor. This is March 25th. So the incident happened February 19th. No. February 17th. Actually, yeah, 19th. And so I messaged the college pastor on the 25th, and I'm just like, I think I'm really still so uncomfortable around Army Boy, even after the situation. Still, ever since we last talked, it feels like every time he still continues to find a way to get close to me, but like indirectly, if that makes sense. It is like most times I try to start a personal conversation with people at the church, he tries to chime in quite frequently. It becomes just really awkward and sometimes just unnecessary responses, which then annoyed me. Even today, I was just asking somebody about something personal, and the Army Boy chimes into the conversation and just entirely switches it. It's like I've really tried to get over this situation, and it's just so overwhelming because I really love being here. And then, you know, he was like, thanks for letting me know. We'll talk about this more on Wednesday. And basically from that conversation that we have in person, he's just like, hey, you know, like there's only so much that I can do. You know, the Army guy is really trying, and he's talking with like this other pastor to work through that issue. But like my thing is that like there's people like literally at that church, like there's girls telling him like, hey, you know, maybe you should like yeah. There's literally other guys telling him, hey, you know, you should yada. Then it's literally like the pastor on top of that that's literally like, hey, you need to like get it together. And the fact that that hasn't worked in the past, and it just, the hope of seeing things change, it just didn't seem likely to me. So I told the pastor, you know what, I'm just gonna remove myself. And then he's like, you know, it's sad to see you go, because I told him I was gonna go just to the same like ministry but on a different campus, since like I'm in the city, so it's like it's easy to move. But then his reasoning was like, you know, which I didn't necessarily like as much, but it was just like, you know, but you need to have community close, you know, to campus. And like I get that, but at the same time I feel like, especially for the extent of the situation that's happened between me and that guy, and also just the fact that like no person should have to be uncomfortable, especially since the fact that this has been an issue since the beginning of the school year. I think that is unacceptable, and that there's no like question or doubt about why that guy should have been removed, or at least told like, hey, you know, like at least when it was early on, like they could have like really like handled it differently. Like at first I thought things were handled well at the situation, but as things kept on like escalating, it was just like no person should have to feel like that. So it kind of felt invalidating when he was like, hey, you know, like kind of like in a way like reeling me back in there. But at the same time, like, you know, like if it didn't seem as welcoming as more in that sense, and it felt like, you know, I kept on stressing about that issue when it's like I shouldn't have to worry about that, you know. Like it had gone to the point where when people would ask me about like whenever they'd pick me up and like I'd be asking for a ride or even like getting my number out, like I would make sure like I wouldn't say it around that guy because I was in fear, you know. Like people nowadays, like I don't know if y'all watch murder, crime, yada, a lot of stuff. I don't know what this guy, you know, at the end of the day, like we're strangers, you know. And so it's like I don't know what he's capable of, and it's like I have to protect myself, and I don't want to put myself in positions where it's like I'm gonna continue to feel uncomfortable around him, especially if nothing's really being done. And the fact that it's not just me currently, but other girls also that are feeling uncomfortable around him, it's just like, you know what, I don't want to see how it's gonna end up. I don't want to be a part of that, so I removed myself. So when he texted me April 7th and was like, hey friend, I noticed you left the group me, I wanted to check in and make sure nothing else happened. And then I was like, no, I'm good, and nothing else happened. I just decided officially I no longer am gonna go here. And he's like, oh man, I hate to hear that, just know you will be missed. And I was like, yeah, I really did not want to, but at the end of the day, if he is not going to listen to his peers or even you, I don't know what more can be done for the situation. I'd rather just lay it to rest, the whole thing. But I told some of the girls who reached out, I definitely will still attend women's only events for sure. And so then he was like, I understand, I'm sad to hear, because I feel like it's so important to have community on campus, and even though the other school is close, it might as well be worlds apart. But if his presence makes you feel uncomfortable, I know we we can't make you stay. And the thing is, like, it's more than just his presence, but it's the way that he persistently keeps on acting around me and even for other girls. And it's like I'm exhausted of having to still hear things from other people and them coming up to me, because I've confided to like a few people, like a good amount of people about it, to be honest, here about him, and just them telling me more things. And it's like I'm tired of it when it can be like an easy fix, you know. And just like I feel like if you kick somebody out, it forces them like, hey, like I need to get myself together, you know what I'm saying? And there was just really no, like, you know, like I get it, you know, like having a space safe for everybody, but like, because like at first I think honestly the situation kind of rubbed me wrong, because from what my understanding, the pastor was just saying, oh, it was just like black girls that was his type. But even if his type was just black girls, mind you, this man goes for any woman, like any girl, that just any girl, right? But and so my thing is just like, you know, like even if it was just for black girls, does that mean that, you know, we should have to like endure something like this, you know? Like he shouldn't be harassing anybody. And the fact that the situation kept on persisting even after the fact that I left, I'm glad that I left, because honestly it would have been good for my mental health. Like this is literally my first semester at the school, the first church that I actually got myself involved with, and that was, you know, the experience that I had. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, y'all. Like, you know, like I'm not gonna trip over it too much. Like in the moment it really sucked and it hurt, but I think especially removing myself from there, I was definitely able to be in a better mental health space. And honestly, like I don't think about him anymore unless like, I don't know, somebody brings it up or like I recall the story again. But I'm definitely doing much more better than before, and it sucks, the whole situation, but honestly, like, you know, I'm taking it as, you know, like I'm glad I didn't lose my faith because of the situation. Like that's a huge thing though too. And I'm glad that, you know, that it has pushed me out to, you know, put myself out there more, and to not like just, you know, to really branch myself out there and to meet more people. Because, you know, like yes, it's a good ministry minus that one guy. You know, like what if this is just like a detour the Lord is taking me, you know, to really like open more doors and opportunities for me. So really don't limit yourself. Don't make anybody make you feel like you are stuck in a situation or that you're crazy for feeling a certain way, because trust me, like when I talk to more girls about this, it made me feel much more better to know that like, but yeah, it definitely made me feel so much better to know that I wasn't the only one. Like it sucks that there's other people going through it, but it made me like good to know that like, hey, like this is like a real thing going on, and I'm not being crazy. Because sometimes like there's some people that'll make you feel like, oh yeah, like you're the only one feeling like that. No, I was not the only one feeling like that. And so yeah, once again, no hate or shade to the BCM, but that was a huge issue that definitely really did suck. But at the end of the day, it's truly whatever. No hate or shade to the guy, to army guy, to the college pastor, to the ministry itself. I really loved my experience there. I'm really sad it was like, you know, short-lived, but you know, like moving on to other things, and hopefully, you know, things could get better next semester, but Lord knows. But at the end of the day, like I'm glad to be in a better position, and the Lord has led me to a lot more people and to places that I, you know, can continue to spiritually grow at. And so I guess I really hope you guys enjoyed the story. It was really long, but yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Peace is already out.